It's the video the LAPD took years to release. This patrol car recording of two officers playing the online game Pokemon GO instead of responding to a call about a robbery in progress at a Macy's in Crenshaw.
Oh, these calls are backing up.
On the recording, you hear the officers minutes after driving away discussing how to catch the Pokemon character Snorlax, ignoring the robbery call, even though, according to court documents, they were only 200 yards away from the store. The officers were fired.
Look at these old-ass officers playing fucking Pokemon.
California Appeals Court. The officers arguing their patrol car recordings should be dismissed because they were private conversations. But the appeals court disagreed and sided with the police board, which ruled the officers committed misconduct that was unprofessional and embarrassing and violated the trust of the public. The ignored robbery call was back in 2017, but the video just came to light thanks to a public records request.
I'm sure there's a lot of people in prison right now who have their voice on tape recorded by the police committing a crime that then got them incarcerated. How are you going to say you can't use the recordings that were in our car, in our police car, that we are aware that is recording things and that we are talking while it's recording, and then you're going to say that's not admissible in court? I just don't understand police, man, sometimes. Like, shout out to all you police officers who be out there really doing your job and really be helping people, but let me just say something. This is ridiculous. This is unacceptable. You're fucking playing fucking Pokemon Go? The fucking one of those cops was like 40, 50 years old, at least. And he out here looking at his Pokemon Go. Look, I was working at Children's Hospital at the Pokemon Go craze. Like the peak of it, I was working at Children's Hospital. People would come into the area that we worked in, our department, and they would try to like catch Pokemon and shit. And I'm like, yo, son, y'all gotta go. Y'all can't be up in here. Like, people will go through the craziest things to get a Pokemon. That is a phenomenon that I have not experienced or participated in.
Pokemon Go, that was 2016.
Right.
And this said 2017.
April.
So like
it's still early. It's still early 2017, you know.
But
April.
still, the craze had died down like after that summer, you know. Remember when people were just like mobbing the streets and shit?
Right.
You know, people weren't doing that anymore. Like people weren't like making it their whole lives.
No, not cool people. Cool people weren't. No.
But, you know, like it's almost,
you want to be really cool? Go out and hunt some Pokemon in your squad car.
The initial release date was July 6, 2016. So it's about a year, almost a year later. And
wow. I mean, were there any more Pokemon to catch? I don't know how that game works. Like, if everybody keeps catching them, like, can I just keep, if you catch one in the same spot, can I go to that same spot and catch one? No, right?
Yeah, like they respawn. I don't know. I don't know. I never actually had a Pokemon.
I was about to say,
I did walk around with my friends and like went downtown and, you know, we were whatever, but I never actually had the app downloaded.
Pokemon Go seems to me like just like a filter that like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like a very expensive filter that you spend a lot of time walking around to find. Like in Disneyland, they have a Doctor Strange type of situation like that. If you go to this one section of Disneyland, it's not very big, but if you find it, you're very happy because when you take your phone out to take a picture of it, it looks like you're falling into the Doctor Strange portal in Doctor Strange 2. I can't remember the name of it. But yeah, so yeah, like there's things like that around that are entertaining, but to be at work and be doing it is one thing. But to be at work as a police officer and you're looking for Pokemon, my guy.
Ignoring calls, yeah.
You cannot pass go. You cannot collect $200. You guys should be glad they didn't try to take you to jail. Okay,
you lost the plot of it.
This is bad, people. This is bad. It's bad for your brains. It's bad for your life. Don't play Pokemon Go. Just don't play Pokemon Go.
Still.
Apparently, out there in the world of the prison population, Dungeons and Dragons is a very popular game that is played amongst inmates. But they've basically banned it. For what reason? All of the reasons are ridiculous. They've banned it because of gambling, because they've got dice and they don't allow gambling, and people are going to take them, as they say, they'll take those dice and then they'll start gambling instead of playing Dungeons and Dragons. I can see that. But there are ways to get around that. We can make different types of die. We can make them out of paper so that they're not able to, bounce around. There's ways to get around that kind of stuff. If there are people in prison who are wanting to play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't think you have anything to worry about those people. Those are the nerdiest people that you can have in a prison. I don't think people are going to use Dungeons and Dragons to get out of prisons. Dungeons and Dragons is not a strategy game to get out of prison, because you can't use warlocks and witches to get out of prison. It's just something that I just feel like is silly. Give these people the Dungeons and Dragons, because maybe we should be worried about the rehabilitation of the people in prison and not the punishment of the people in prison.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where it's like a hobby that you should foster, because if it is for rehabilitation, that's something that, could be very helpful for them to like be in a group when they get out that plays Dungeons and Dragons, and they're staying out of trouble that way. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Also, you could foster a bunch of skills by playing Dungeons and Dragons, like foster creativity and world building, and also collaborative effort, math, even.
Definitely math. And that's why I'm not a fan of Dungeons and Dragons. Me, myself, personally, I don't play it because I'm not patient enough, and I'm also, I'm creative, and I love everything about how it would work. I'm just not patient enough to sit here and play a game like that. But you got a great point. It is about camaraderie and a whole bunch of other things that you can get out of Dungeons and Dragons. I just don't feel like you can get out of prison by playing Dungeons and Dragons. So just give these dudes they Dungeons and Dragons, man.
And
we're trying to make up stories.
You can have a deck of cards in prison, right? And like everyone's been, playing spades or whatever, and you can have TVs where people watch sports and they gamble on that shit. Like no one's gambling.
You can't stop Dragons. You can't stop people from gambling anyway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like you said, there's other ways to gamble without dice. Even if they were going to shoot craps with dice, you take the dice away and they'll gamble on something else, man. Look, I'll race you to one end of this cell to the other cell. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to bet on something. We'll bet which mouse is going to win this fight over this cheese. Like, whatever, prison games. I don't know prison games. I've never been to prison. But if you've been to prison, I did some research on this. The people who are in prison love Dungeons and Dragons to a point where I think it should be mandatory that people play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, Dungeons and Dragons would probably be a punishment for some people who are in prison. You know what I mean? But maybe it'll soften them up. It sounds like a really good, like, Disney daytime, Lifetime television movie thing. Like
very wholesome.
These prisoners go to prison, and then this one guy, he's like a counselor. Oh no, this has got to be a white lady, right? It's got to be a white lady. And this white lady comes in, she just brings Dungeons and Dragons, but the warden won't let her. And then she gets it in there anyway, and they see a decrease in violence, and then they start singing songs together at a talent show, all that kind of stuff. I love it. I just wrote y'all a really good movie, so take that.
Right, yeah. All of the different prisoners have different crimes that would correlate to their Dungeons and Dragons character, and then they have to apply those things in real life to like solve a problem or something. Yeah, the movie's there. The movie is there.
It's all there, man. We can make this happen. We can make the movie happen. We can also make the reality happen. Let's get Dungeons and Dragons in there. And then what about some Monopoly and Clue and Risk? Let's get some board games in prisons.